Welcome aboard, and thank you once again for tuning in to the Heavy Metal Truckers. We are your hosts. I am Big Cushion, and this is Doppler. And in this video, we are discussing the new album from Dragonforce, Warp Speed Warriors. Wow, is that not an album name? But I digress.
Of course, if you look at their discography, they have a lot of odd named albums.
Typically what we do in these videos is, if this is your first one you've seen, typically we discuss like how we came to discover the group, and then we kind of go into a review of it, and then we just kind of bullshit along the way because why not?
That's what we do.
It's what we do.
Because half the time we pretend like we know what we're talking about.
Indeed.
I probably heard of Judas Priest.
We just got finished doing the not Panic Attack, Invincible Shield review.
So I first heard about Dragonforce probably when a lot of people did when Through the Fire and the Flames came out, because obviously that is by far their biggest song. Period.
For a good reason.
Yeah. And I also knew about them because they've worked with Baby Metal before on their Road to Resistance song. And I've known about this because they're one of the most well-known power metal bands out there.
Oh yeah.
And I like power metal. Now I've never gotten huge into Dragonforce. I've always had a lot of respect for them because of what they've done for power metal. And even within power metal, they still have kind of somewhat their own sound. Like people know what Dragonforce sounds like.
Thanks, Herman Lee.
Yeah.
Which I did not realize this because I never really cared to look it up that much, but I didn't realize he was an English guy.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was English, and then, like, I can't remember if he was born in Hong Kong or he was, like, his parents were just from Hong Kong.
Well, Hong Kong used to be British territory until, wasn't even that long ago, like maybe somewhere in the last 10 to 20 years it went back over to China. But, so yeah, I mean, like, I've always had a lot of respect for them for what they do. I've liked a handful of their songs, and being how important they are to power metal, I always, is one of the reasons why we figured we would do a review of this album, because I know there's a lot of Dragonforce fans out there. So, but yeah, how about you?
2 words: Guitar Hero.
No, that probably a lot of people who
wait. Let me get that correctly. Guitar Hero, hard, expert level, power level 5. Like, that was, you kids these days have your Tide Podding challenges. Back in the day, that was everyone's challenges. Can you play Through the Fire and Flames on expert level, power level 5, and just watch to see how many wrong notes people would hit, and then be a game of see the least amount of wrong notes they could hit. I actually knew someone that could do it.
Oh, there's people that you can watch videos of that can do it.
Oh, I know. The videos are one thing, but actually seeing it in person, something completely different.
Yeah.
Like, it was madness. But anyway. Well, actually, since then, I haven't listened to them.
Till now.
Yeah, pretty much. So.
Would you like to bring up the track listing?
Oh, I could do that. That could potentially be helpful.
I remember the first song is called Astro something. I wasn't a huge fan of the first song. Not necessarily because it was bad or anything along those lines. The little mini or micro, whatever you want to call them, like guitar solo things that they had, like in the verses. You know what I'm talking about? You remember what I'm talking about?
Not really, but I just do know that there was spurts of whenever Lee was just doing his thing.
And they would be really short. They'd be just a couple notes long, but they would do it and constantly throughout the verses. And it got a little annoying for me. Like, it got to where it became a distraction from the song for me. And it made me, I didn't really care for that song. And that song literally felt like, I don't know, I'm probably going to catch flack for this.
Go for it.
It felt like a bunch of dudes ripping as hard and as fast as they could to make up for having small dicks. Like that's almost what the song felt like. Like it like I know playing fast is a big part of what Dragonforce is, and that's fine. But the way they did it here with all those little mini showing off,
it's what I call wanking off on the fretboard.
Yeah, it's exactly what that song felt like. It became too much. Power of the Triforce. The best thing about that song is about Zelda.
I thought it was hilarious that they made a track like this.
Yeah. So that was the best part about the song, about Zelda. Other than that, the song was kind of cheesy. And I don't know if it was because it was about Zelda or if it was just, even if it wasn't, it still would have felt cheesy. Like it had a decent groove to it and decent flow to it and all, but it just, I don't know, there's just something about it that just felt, I don't know. It's hard to explain, I guess. Then you got the Kingdom of Steel. It was okay. If I remember correctly, it was a little softer than the first two, or a little slower, whatever. I don't know. It was just okay. Then you get to Burning Head, and I was like,
Burning Heart, sir.
Burning Heart.
Oh my God,
it's tiny.
that's what she said.
I know. But Burning Heart, and I was like, finally a Dragonforce song. This was the first song that sounded like Dragonforce to me. Like, and that was just, it was a good song. It was solid all the way through. Yes, they were playing quick, but they weren't showing off. What?
Burning Head.
Oh, you're still laughing at that.
Yes, No, you can't unthink it.
Damn it.
You're welcome.
So anyway, it was the first song that I was like, yes, this is what Dragonforce is supposed to sound like. You know, it had a good chorus. It had a solid groove to it. You know, it had their typical speed, but it wasn't them showing off like it was in the first song.
I'm sorry, just imagine if the title track of the album name was Burning Head. What would the album cover be? You know, I'm not even sure. I want to know. Burning Head of Cabbage.
Yes, there you go. Space Marine Corps? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
That is a song I feel like will divide a lot of people. Because it's a little bit different. But I actually really enjoyed it. Like, it to me, if it's that song I'm thinking of, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was that song. Yeah, that song, to me, that would be a great live song. Because if it's a song I'm thinking of, there's a lot of kind of like call and response moments where there could be a whole lot of interaction with the crowd. So I think that would be a fun song to hear live. But I could see why there were people who might not care for it, especially if, you know, you've been a Dragonforce fan for a long time, because it is a little bit different. Prelude to Darkness, which is literally just a prelude. That being said, it was a decent prelude when you consider what it played into in the Killer Queen. They went really well together. The Killer Queen, again, is another song that is, in my opinion, kind of classic Dragonforce. It's what I would have expected him to be putting out. Then you get to Doomsday Party. And I'm not sure what really happened here. Yeah, it was like I was finally getting into the album with the previous tracks, and then you hit this thing. And it felt out of place for me. They just kept saying the same thing over and over again a lot. No offense to anybody who likes the song, but the song for me was pretty much hot garbage. Like, I mean, that's it. I don't even think I finished listening to the whole thing. I think I ended up like 3/4 of the way through, or 2/3 of the way through.
You lasted longer than I did.
And I was like, I can't do this anymore. Even having they had a version with Elise in it, and it didn't really help any. Which Elise from Amaranth, like it didn't help the song any. Even back to Pixel Prison, better. Again, you're getting more into what I would expect from Dragonforce with that one. And then you get into Wildest Dreams. My first question is why?
The real question is why not?
Like, I guess Dragonforce is a band that doesn't really take stuff serious. Like, I mean, you can tell by the music. I mean, like, this whole album was like a nerd out album. And so I guess can't put it past them to do a Taylor Swift cover. That being said, I didn't hate it. Weirdly, I didn't hate it. I wouldn't say I loved it, but I didn't hate it. It's definitely better than Taylor's version, but I absolutely can't stand Taylor Swift.
I was about to say anything other than Taylor's version would probably be nice.
Yeah. So.
Which I don't even know what Taylor's version sounds like, to be honest.
Yeah, and everything else is just, the bonus tracks are just like redone versions of the ones up there.
They put guest vocals in and just called it done.
Yeah. Well, there's one instrumental too. I think they did an instrumental,
yeah,
the Zelda song. So for me, this album overall was decent. But it wasn't great. But it wasn't terrible either. Like, if you could remove 4 of the songs, it actually would have been a damn good album, I think.
You would have had a fucking demo.
I know, but it would have been a damn good demo. I give them credit because there aren't many bands that would put out an album like this where you're just nerding out.
Have you not heard of Alstorm, sir?
Well, okay, yes, but I'm talking like...
Well, granted, I just listed one group, so never mind.
Yeah, so I give them credit for that. And being a nerd myself, I appreciate it, you know. But some of the songs just fell flat for me. But again, there were some damn good ones, like Burning Head, actually Burning Heart. You know, I like Space Marine Corps. I like The Killer Queen. Pixel Prism was good, you know. So there were some good songs on here. But for me, if I was going to give it a score, I'd probably give it a 6.75. So not quite a 7. You know, not just short of being a good album. It was an above average, okay album for me.
It is, as I've said before, very difficult sometimes to put aside any bias. It is really difficult, and I really tried to listen to this album. Granted, trying meant only two times, but the beginning of this literally was a group that was power metal influenced that did speed metal. And I was just lost after the first couple tracks. It didn't do anything for me. Nothing stood out except for the fact that the entire time I'm just listening to this thinking, okay, this album completely verifies my theory that Herman Lee is a cyborg. Seriously.
Yeah, the dude's ridiculous.
Like, the dude's a hell of a musician. Yeah. Absolutely. Like,
he really is.
To be honest, that was the only thing that was good about this album for me. I scoffed kind of whenever I was listening to the lyrics of The Power of the Triforce. And I'm like, did they really just know? Okay.
Yeah,
all right, they did.
Zelda song. Yep.
Afterwards, the only thing that caught my attention was the marching chant in Space Marine Corps. And then Doomsday Party, I listened to about maybe a minute of it, not even then. I just skipped it. And then I don't even remember Wildest Dreams. And then it went into the redos of it, and I'm like, is this seriously the entire album? And so I had to check because I honestly wasn't sure. I didn't know if the playlist I was listening to was actually complete. And so I re-listened to it, and I'm like, wow. I mean, I'm going to give the guys credit where credit is due. These are outstanding musicians. They do what they do very well. And for power metal, they did exceptional. However, nothing stood out to me at all, and this was easily something that just made my mind drift, just because it was just background noise to me. I personally just didn't care for it. But that being said, I still can't deny that they are damn good at what they did, and for that I give this a 6.5. Like, I could not give it higher just because it.
The scores are about the same then.
Yeah, just Doomsday Party was one of the worst things I've heard. One of the worst things I've ever heard.
It felt like, I don't even know.
It
just, I don't.
This album essentially feels like an album they made to be played live at Wacken, while all the anime nerds that think they want to embrace Japanese culture, they're all wearing kimonos and they're standing in a line and doing the can to this fucking album. Like, that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, I know there was Warhammer references in some of these songs too. So, like I said, they nerded out on this album, which is cool. But yeah,
it fell hard.
Yeah, I Doomsday is a song that if I had been in the band, I would have been like, hell no, we're not putting this on the album. Like, if y'all wanted to do it for fun as a one-off, play live kind of thing, fine. But I would not have released that.
Release it as its own single, and just
or something. Like, it just.
My curiosity is groups that are so influential as Dragonforce can be for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
They came out with an album that essentially has 9 tracks.
Yeah.
And half of them
were either or not good.
Yeah, so I don't know what happened here. I don't know if this was they weren't actually ready.
And the sad part is, if I remember correctly, you'd have to look at their full discography, but there was a good gap between their previous album and this one, at least for them anyway. So I was kind of surprised this album wasn't stronger than it was.
Honestly, if that's the case, and they may have just not really cared to do it, and then the record label was like, hey, you get a contract.
See, it's funny because I was thinking that after the third song, I was like, this feels like an album that a band rushed out because they had to for contractual obligations. I was literally thinking
Cradle of Filth, we're looking at you, even though, Danny, we know you guys were trying to get out of things, which...
Well, a lot of people say the same thing with Slipknot's newest one, too. But...
let's not talk about that.
That's literally how I was thinking that through the first 3 songs, because they were that weak. I mean, even though the one was about Zelda, which is the saving grace of that song, it's how it felt.
I mean, for a while, I was just thinking to myself, I'm not into power metal, just not my thing. But I'm like,
see, I like power. Well, you know that.
Yeah, but I'm like, am I this really put off by power metal? And then I'm starting to think, you know what, this might have just been a not that great album, or not a good album, because I know there's some excellent power metal groups out there.
And Dragonforce is one of them, but this album, it just...
Blind Guardian would kick their ass beyond all recognition.
Oh, Blind Guardian's up there too, yeah.
Yeah.
At least with this album anyway, but there is a crap load of power metal albums out there that are superior to this.
Now, before everyone starts firing away on the keyboards to what I just said, Blind Guardian would kick the album, this particular album.
Yeah.
Like, just no. If they wanted to make it for a new generation to get into power metal and get into metal, by all means, I completely understand that, because this generation is fucking weird.
Yeah.
Just really odd. So I could see the current generation being all into this.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing I could potentially think of, because, I mean, like, occasionally I'll see, like, artists or people talking about Herman Lee and what he's doing, and he's been on Twitch just streaming and either playing games or just playing along to some of their older material, and so it's like I know what he's capable of. Mm-hmm. And collaborating and creating this, I'm like, what the fuck happened? Like, I don't think they wanted this was, if this had been an EP, it would have been loads better, instead of just making random stuff and then throwing in some guest vocalists to try and extend the album.
Like I said, for me, if it had just been Burning Heart, Space Marine Camp, The Prelude, Killer Queen, and Pixel Prison, that would have been a damn solid EP, like it, or demo, whatever you want to call it. It really would have been, but you throw those other, and it just drags it down.
Now, mind you, I know we're absolutely blasting this album, but mind you, this is just merely our perspective and our takes on it. Take it with a grain of salt. This could be right up your alley. So, if
Which, if it is,
then
great. That's
fucking great.
That
But-
doesn't mean you're wrong. Yeah.
But with what we're saying,
That doesn't mean we're wrong
we want
either,
you
yeah.
guys to take a listen for yourself and get your own perspective on this album, because it's very likely going to be vastly different from
Oh, it will
different
be,
than
'cause
ours.
yeah.
Just again, it can be kind of difficult to do album reviews without putting personal bias into it. That's why we're not journalists, for one thing. We're just a couple of guys on here just giving our perspectives on an album. But yeah, for us, just did not do anything. So yeah,
That's Dragonforce's Warp Speed Warriors for you.
no, I want them to create a deluxe edition called Burning Head.
Burning Head will live on forever.
And that would actually be the name of the album. I could see it. Anyways, until next time, really glad you could be here with us. Catch you guys later. Keep rolling heavy.